So we are going to be going through the beginner's guide to Amazon advertising. And yeah, advertising with PPC is one of those kind of scary moments. A lot of people are a bit afraid of it and don't understand some of it. So we want to try and reveal, pull the curtain back, let everyone know as much as can so you are armed with information as you get going with your Amazon business. And even if you're not selling yet, these are still really good information to know. And it's kind of the things that you need to think about and be aware of as you're doing your product research, so you'll be ready for advertising when you do go live. All right, so we are going to provide a basic introduction to Amazon pay-per-view. Pay-per-view, pay-per-click advertising, detailing some of the key concepts. And we're going to go at a high level, but if you have any more specific questions, don't be afraid. Ask them when we get to the Q&A. We'll go as deep as anyone wants us to, but this is really geared for researchers who are getting started, so you can understand some of the basics as you're going through your research phase.
Yeah, and just a point on that, guys, if you've seen our timetable for the month, our trainings are actually going to build off each other. So we are starting on the very basic PPC. So if you're new or have just starting out, this is awesome, because we're going to go through the basics that I think is often missed. Okay, people are like, oh, PPC, and then they're talking about something about keywords and halo effect, and people are like, oh, we're not sure. So we are basics, because our next training is then going to be the next level up, and then the following one again over. So it's going to cater, and we're going to, you're going to learn over the month of what exactly you need to be doing with your PPC. So keep that in mind if you're kind of listening and be like, oh, I knew that, or maybe I didn't know that. Just know that, we are starting from the beginning, and it will build over the course of November.
Absolutely, yeah. So is this you when you think about PPC? This was me when I started. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit scary, but don't be afraid, because we got you, and we are going to help you get through this and get to where you feel comfortable using PPC and being prepared for your PPC when you launch. So what is PPC? So it is the advertising platform on Amazon. It is pay-per-click. So you don't get charged for your ads unless someone actually clicks on them. So that's important to know when you're going on Amazon and doing your research, and you see a product listing and you might want to check it out. If it says sponsored, think about that before you click on it, because you might be costing someone that because you may not know what their product is. You might be costing someone an ad click, an ad spend that's unnecessary if you're just kind of browsing around for certain things. I know when I'm doing my research for our presentations, I definitely try not to click on anything that's sponsored, because I don't want to cost anyone for me just putting together graphics for our presentations.
I've definitely also catch myself doing that as well. I'm just like, once you know what PPC, what it actually involves and what it means, you're very mindful as a seller and be like, no, I'm going to be kind. This isn't the product that I need. I'm not going to click on the sponsored app, because it is money. And after all, it is business. Every cent, goes towards your cogs, your advertising, and it gets deducted from your profit. So it's just when you when you learn about the PPC, and then when you go again onto Amazon itself, how you look at where products are positioned completely changes as well.
Yeah, and when I'm shopping also, I'll try not to, if I can find this person's product that I want to buy and click on it without the ad, then I will. So, because I know what they've been through putting that ad together. Yeah. So do you need to think about PPC now if you are a researcher? Yes, you definitely need to think about PPC now and get familiar with it, because it's definitely one of those things, the 7 Ps, prior proper planning. You definitely want to be, and I won't finish the rest of those Ps, but prior proper planning is incredibly important when you are getting your PPC campaign going. And it's important all the way through your Amazon journey, and everything you do, you want to be prepared. And so knowledge is power. So that's why we're presenting this today. So what do you need to know? So we're going to go through some basic terminology today. We're going to look at the different types of ads on Amazon. And we're going to look at how you can start preparing now as you're doing your research. So we'll start with the terminology. And I know this is kind of dry. And just so you guys know, we have put together a document that has pretty much all of the information in these slides for you. And we're going to send that out along with the link, the replay link that you'll get in your email later today. So you'll have a copy of all of this information that you can refer back to. So you don't have to worry about trying to make screenshots or take notes. You're going to get a copy of all this information. All right, so keywords and search terms. I think everyone probably knows what that is, but just to be sure, you know, these are the things that Amazon sellers, Amazon buyers type in that search bar when they're looking for a product. You know, if they're looking for, you know, a shelf, they're going to type in shelf, or if they're looking for a particular shelf, they might type in, you know, counter shelf or corner shelf, you know, something that's descriptive, that's going to bring up the right products. So again, the phrases that they enter in the search bar. Now, targets, you'll hear that when you start looking into your PPC. And basically, it's the same thing. It's the keywords within your PPC campaign. That's your targets. That's your targeting. So portfolio. Portfolio is the highest level of structure within Campaign Manager. When you get into your Seller Central account and you go to Campaign Manager, it's a hierarchy of structures. Kind of think of it like a folder or a tree, like a family tree almost. Portfolio, that's the highest level. Then under that, you'll have campaign. So within a portfolio, you can have multiple campaigns. And I tend to use my portfolio for each product. So I have, you know, 3 products. I have 3 different portfolios. And within each of those portfolios, I'll have different campaigns that I set up for different purposes. So within your campaigns, you're going to group your targets or your keywords that you're going to be trying to advertise with. And this is where you can set your daily budget. So this is an important thing to remember when you're structuring your campaign. This is why as we get into the training later in the month, I'll go through how I set up my campaigns, and I keep this in mind. I use the structure within my campaigns to be able to control that budget and really give my PPC targets the best chance. Within a campaign, you can also set up different ad groups, and you can get creative with those. And there's some different reasons to set up different ad groups with different groups of targets within a campaign. But you can further group your targets, like I said, but you can't control the budget at the ad group level. It's at the campaign level. So that's important to remember. Okay, impressions. So impressions are the number of times your ad is displayed. So your ad may not be seen even if you have an impression for it, because if your ad is down at the bottom of the page and the buyer doesn't scroll all the way down, you'll have an impression, but that doesn't mean eyeballs actually got laid on it. But the good news is you don't have to pay for that impression. So CTR, this is something you'll see in your campaign manager, and that is your click-through ratio. So that is the number of clicks divided by impressions times 100. And I'm really big on knowing, you know, I've seen so many different trainings and people talk about these things that you need to be monitoring and different metrics. Metrics are great, but if you don't know what the goal metric is, it doesn't do you much good, right? So I wanted to make sure I was share this. And this may seem like a ridiculously low number, but you know, if you want it above 0.3. If it's below 0.3, then you're not getting enough clicks for some reason. So if it's above that, and many of mine are significantly above that, but if it's above that, then you know you're getting an average number of, you know, appropriate clicks for the number of impressions. Cost per click, that's your CPC. And so when you bid on a keyword, say you bid $1, and if you're going to be the winning bid, if you're the ad that's going to get displayed, but the next person who would have won, their bid was 70 cents. Well, you're not going to pay $1, even though you've bid $1. You'll pay 71 cents. So your cost per click can be lower than your bid, in other words. Then ACoS. So this is your advertising cost of sales. This one we talk about a lot. And this is something you'll see on the business dashboard in ZonGuru. And so that is your total ad spend divided by your total ad revenue. So it's how much you spent on your advertising and how much revenue that advertising brought in. Before I move on to ACoTs, or I like to call it tacos because it makes it easier to sound, to tell the difference between what you're talking about. When you're looking at ACoS, it's really important to know your gross margin on your products, because you don't want your ACoS to be higher than that margin, because then you're losing money. So your ACoTs, this is your advertising cost of total sales. So this is how much you spend on your ads divided by your total revenue. So this should definitely be much lower than your ACoS, because you'll have some organic sales. Then ROAS, return on ad spend. Now you'll see this one on you'll see ACoS and tacos on your ZonGuru dashboard, but your ROAS, you'll see that on your campaign manager, and that's your return on ad spend. So it's kind of like the reverse. It's your total ad revenue divided by your total ad spend. So it's the reverse of ACoS. So basically you want your ROAS to be at least $1, because if you've spent $1 on ads and you've gotten $1 back, well, then you've broken even. So you definitely want it above $1, but if you're at $1, you know you're at that break-even point. All right, so now we'll talk about the different types of campaigns. Did you have anything to add about the financial figures before we move on to the campaigns, Veronica?
I just, nothing to add. That was fantastic. But I did want to maybe offer some comforting words, because knowing especially when you're starting, they all look the same. They all kind of like not sure what they mean. So what as Kimberly earlier explained is that, is just the terminology that you're going to be exposed to more and more as you play around within your, PPC campaigns in your Seller Central account. So don't think like, oh, I'm not quite sure what that means today, right now, or I'm not going to remember all of this. You don't need to remember. We're going to have, you'll get the recording of this training for one, and then also we'll have this resource to give to you, so you can print it out and you have this little cheat sheet that you can have on your wall. But like anything, and like us using the ZonGuru tools, the more and more you have exposure to it, the more and more you see those words, you naturally become more familiar with them and remember them as well. So I just don't want you guys to worry about it, because there are a lot of data points, and this is just explaining the very basics of, okay, these are the data points that you will be looking at eventually and analyzing them, and you will understand them as well.
Absolutely. The more you use them, the more familiar you get. It's like learning a foreign language. The more you use it, the more you get comfortable with it.
That's right.
All right. So when you're looking at campaigns, there's two parent types. You can have a manual campaign, and this is where you decide the keywords to target and you set the bids. And then you can also have an automatic campaign. And this is where Amazon decides what keywords your ads are going to be shown for. And they also may target different ASINs as well. So that can be really interesting. And automatic campaigns are really cool because they can generate a different set of keywords that you may not have thought of, that people are searching for and buying your products with. So that can be really, really useful. So different ad types. So when you get into Campaign Manager and you go to start a campaign, you can have sponsored products, which any person, any seller can have sponsored products, and any professional seller. If you have an individual account, you're not able to do advertising. Sponsored brands and sponsored display, those are only available to sellers with brand registry. So that makes getting a trademark really very valuable, because these two different types of ads can be really powerful. So sponsored product ads. So these are going to drive sales. They're going to appear on your search result page or on product listing pages. So if you've ever looked at a product listing page and down at the bottom underneath the bullet points, you see different other products by other sellers, and you'll see above, it'll say sponsored. Those are sponsored product ads. And like I said, you can target keywords or you can target ASINs. So if you have a competitor that you think you're significantly better than, and maybe your price is really competitive with, but you definitely stand out against them, and you've made improvements on whatever the product category is, target that ASIN. That's one of the strategies that I'll be going through later on about launching, is targeting competitor ASINs. And there'll be some other tips and tricks. I don't want to get too deep into it today, but that definitely can be a really powerful tool by targeting not just keywords, but ASINs. Yeah, we've already talked about targeting. So with your sponsored product ads, you will target keywords and products or categories. So you can now target categories. So, if you're selling dog beds, you could target, a broader category of pet products and be shown there as well. But you just want to make sure that wherever you're targeting, that you're definitely relevant for that, because the last thing you want to do is target something that's kind of close, but not really. Because if your ad is displayed and it's not really irrelevant, it doesn't fit on the page really well, then it's going to hurt your ranking. That's why we talk about making sure that your keywords are really hyper relevant. So sponsored brand ads. So like I said, you need brand registry for these ads. These are going to drive brand awareness. They can also drive sales as well. And we're going to take a look at a product collection ad. These are really cool. They have video ads, and these are amazing. I love the video ads for a lot of reasons, and we'll take a look at an example of those. And you can also have a store spotlight. So when you have brand registry, you also have an Amazon storefront. And so think of it as like a little mini web page within Amazon. And if you ever are shopping around on Amazon and you look on a product listing, and underneath the title, it'll say, visit, Pets R Us store. And you can click on that and you'll go to their storefront. And you can have multiple pages on this. To be able to use the store spotlight ad, though, you have to have 4 different pages on your storefront, and you have to have one unique product per page. So you have to have 4 unique products. So I don't have this yet personally. I only have 3 products so far. So that's something, as you grow as a seller, that you can add to your storefront and then start using those ads. So you're targeting in sponsored brand ads. Again, you can target different keywords. And again, you can target products or categories. So this is an example of a video ad. I'm sure you guys have seen these when you're scrolling through Facebook, when you're scrolling through Amazon, and about midway down the page, you'll see the little video plays, and then you've got the product listing next to it. So these are really great because they have a really high conversion rate, because if you put together a good video, it can showcase your product and really communicate in just a short little 20-second or 30-second loop a lot about your product. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, that multiplies exponentially when you're looking at videos. And I've mentioned this previously in trainings. You don't even have to have a huge professional video shoot done on your product. I've put together videos of my products using different tools on the internet. One of them that I've used is Vimeo, and they do have a free version. And I've actually just used a combination of stock video that I was able to use with rights. So you want to make sure if you're using any stock images or video, that you have the appropriate rights to use those. And then still images. and Vimeo will create it where it just kind of scrolls across your images, and it is very powerful, and really quite easy to do on Vimeo. They make it very user friendly. All right, now the product collection, I thought I had an example of that. I think I do in another slide, but the product collection that I mentioned in the sponsored brand ads, that you'll see at the very top of the page. I'm sure you guys have seen that when you first go to a search results page, and it has the a headline, it has the logo, and it'll have 3 different products. And so the logo will take the shopper to the storefront, and the different products will take it to those product listing pages. And that's really a hugely powerful ad because it's always at the top of the page. Sponsored display ads. Now, these are really exciting for a lot of reasons. Again, they require brand registry. They're going to also drive brand awareness. But these ads appear both on or off of Amazon. So Amazon is starting to take their ads and put them on other websites and drive traffic to Amazon. And we all know Amazon loves external traffic. So sponsored display ads on Amazon, they are going to be product targeting. You can target individual products, you can target categories, and here's an example of what these look like. So here you can see a product listing page for a digital camera, and then right over here, that is a sponsored display ad, and they've targeted this ASIN to put that there. Okay, now this is an example. You can see this is a blog post. So this is an example of an off Amazon sponsored display ad. And here is, and on your off Amazon ads, they're really exciting because you have a lot of different creative ways that you can target and reach different audiences. So it's going to be audience targeting, which makes sense because you're not going to be putting it on a product. You know, you can't really search for a keyword, you know, if it's going to appear on some other website. So you can choose to pick a relevant Amazon audience. So if you're looking, if you're selling, you know, pet products, then it might show up on, you know, a blog post about, you know, your pets or about dog training or anything like that. So that's a relevant audience, someone who's interested in reading something about pets. You can also have views remarketing. So this will show up to people who have viewed your listings or similar listings. And so, you know, the internet is smart. It knows what we're doing, and it can put these ads in those places when you're surfing the internet. You can also target people who have made purchases. So you can, anyone who's purchased one of your products, then you could choose to display, you know, if you've launched a new product, this would be a great way to get that out there in front of people who've already bought from you in the past and will recognize your brand when they see the ad. And again, here's another example. So this is, you know, this one is restaurants. I'm not sure why a pet ad would show up on a restaurant's blog, but anyway, yeah, so that's an example of an off Amazon sponsored display ad. Now, I know that was a lot of information, so everyone take a breath, have a drink of coffee, have some water, whatever, and we're going to get into some of the actionable steps that you can start taking now. So again, this was all supposed to be, you know, my background is in education. I was a registered nurse and I taught at university. So there is not going to be a test on this. This is just information. So no stressing, take a deep breath, and we'll look at some ways you can prepare to be able to be successful with your PPC campaigns.
Before you go into that, Kimberly, I just wanted to maybe point out. So there was Kimberly went through 3 different, I guess, types of ads that are currently available. Now, the main difference between the first one and then number 2 and number 3 is if you have a trademark. So I think maybe we can, Kimberly, if you can talk quickly about the importance of a trademark, because a lot, if without a trademark, or maybe explain what it is, we can't do those, number 2 and number 3.
Yeah, so brand registry, is something we're actually going to be doing some training on in the future, but it's probably a little bit off. So I will absolutely touch on that here. So brand registry allows you to get a lot of amazing things on Amazon, and you get brand registry by having a trademark.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard it both ways, and you tell me if you have any 100% confirmation. When I was first starting out, I was told, if you're selling in the US market, if you want brand registry, you have to go for the US trademark. An Australian trademark wouldn't have cut it because I was only selling in the US market.
Mm-hmm.
So I did go down that path. And Amazon, in the meantime, before I actually lodged my application, they launched something called IP Accelerator. And you can actually go into a section in Seller Central and find a list of registered attorneys who will lodge your trademark application. And if you used one of them, then within 2 weeks, you wouldn't have to wait for the trademark to be final, which takes, a year or more.
Yeah.
You could automatically get your brand registry. So like within 2 weeks, and that's what I did. I picked an attorney through IP Accelerator, made my application in the US, and once they had lodged it, they communicated that to Amazon, and Amazon gave me brand registry. Now, I've heard other people say that, they're selling in the US, but they got their trademark in Australia and they were able to get brand registry. So not 100% on how that's playing out, especially with Amazon being really launching their global selling. They may be a little bit looser in the rules now compared to when I started.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they're still doing IP Accelerator or not, because they don't require you to go through that. You can go, as long as you've lodged your trademark application, you can communicate that to Seller Central, and they can then invite you into brand registry.
Yeah. No, fantastic. It was more so, making the point that a trademark is extremely important, and it's something that you need to, it's not saying that you can't launch without a trademark, but if you're, if you have a business brand and you already 100% know that you're going forward with it, it's something that you do right at the beginning, because it can take time. Kimberly mentioned some, I guess, some loopholes, if you like, and if they work, then fantastic, because actually getting a trademark approved takes months to up to a year, depending what country you're doing it in. So it's actually a lengthy process. So if Amazon allows you to lodge it and then gives you access to do all the ads and anything that requires brand registry, is awesome. But it's something to definitely take into consideration. And also, as Kimberly said, we will be doing trainings on brand registry as well. But just that's what it means, that the difference between the ads, the sponsored ads and or the different 3 types, is having that trademark. So if you're just beginning, maybe you haven't actually thought about the trademark. So the only option that you have for ads is actually only type 1.
Yeah, and the great thing about the brand registry is you don't even have to have the full trademark. But then going further than that, I initially got the trademark because I wanted brand registry. But, in retrospect, there's a lot more reasons to do it. And trademarks are not inexpensive, especially in the US. Australia, super easy, much less expensive. But it gives you that protection. You build a moat around your brand. And if you're building a brand, which is what is recommended in this era of Amazon sellers, is building that brand. You want to protect your brand. But just so you guys know, if you're buying your products in China, an American or Australian trademark doesn't mean anything there. So you can actually get a Chinese trademark that can go on top of some other things that you put in place to protect you within the environment of the Chinese manufacturing community.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So how to prepare? Well, you're going to start at the beginning with keyword research, because if you don't know the keywords, then you don't know what to advertise, right? So Keywords on Fire has a feature that I don't think we've talked about a whole lot. So we're going to take a look at that in a minute. So We've talked about the halo effect before. You want to make sure that you're using Keywords on Fire to find those long tail keywords, so you can use that halo effect. So that's where you find these keywords that are typically 3, 4, maybe even 5 words. That's why we call them long tail, and they're going to have a lower search volume, but they are going to help you with your ranking when you advertise for those, and when you group several of those together and you advertise for them, they're going to have a combined search volume that's really great, and then that's going to drive your ranking because Amazon's learning really specifically about what your product is, and then it's going to help you rank for some of those other keywords. Again, you want to make sure that they're completely relevant. If you're selling a product that's made out of, oh, I can't think of something that's not too personal. I'm drawing a blank because I don't want to. The only example I can think of is my own product, and I can't go there.
So we need to make sure that the products are looking for example, but when we're doing our keyword research within PPC, we're looking for long tail keywords as well. But keywords always need to be relevant to your to what you're selling. So if I'm selling, plastic cups, I can be doing, something around the beach about picnics, things like that. But I'm not going to suddenly display my cup on something that's selling, iPhone cases, for example. The relevance needs to be there, because otherwise you're just wasting money.
Exactly. Like, yeah, if your product might go with that thing, but it's not exactly that thing, then you're going to be hurting yourself. If you're selling a wooden product, or if you're selling a bamboo product, you think, oh, well, I'm so much more superior to a wood product because bamboo's sustainable. You don't want to advertise on the, with that wooden product page, because that's not relevant, and people may click on it and they go, oh no, wait, I wanted this type of wood, this is bamboo, I don't want that, and you've just messed everything up. So that can be, it's relevant. I just can't stress enough, relevant keywords are crucial, especially at the beginning, because Amazon's trying to learn what you are. So you can also need to evaluate, oh, I have a typo there, your competition's keyword ranking. And we've looked at that in the past, and we'll take a look at that again when we get into Keywords on Fire. And I apologize, I have a little jumping icon down there. We'll ignore that. So you want to prepare a keyword master list. So, in Keywords on Fire, you can export what you refined down when you get all of your super relevant keywords. You can export that as a CSV file and work on that in your spreadsheet program of choice, Excel, Numbers, Google Sheets, whichever. You can work on that and get your list refined, so you can upload those keywords into Amazon when you're ready to start your ads. You'll want to remove any duplicate keywords, so sort them by the keyword name. Make sure you're removing any duplicates. And this is something that I just recently learned that absolutely blew my mind. But you want to remove conjunctions. So, if you're selling plastic cup for beach picnics, you don't need the word "for" in there. It's not needed in your PPC. You'll want to put it in your listing because people may be typing that, and that you would want to organically rank. But for your ads, it's not needed, and neither are plurals. So like if you're selling plastic cup, you don't need to advertise for plastic cup and plastic cups, because Amazon will recognize both as the exact same thing. And then you want to make sure that you're creating an optimized listing using Listing Optimizer. So you want to use all of these keywords, make sure your listing is optimized for all of these in your Listing Optimizer before you launch your product. So this is what I was going to show you guys, and we'll take a look at this in and a couple of other things in the tool suite. We'll do a quick live demo once we get through these next 2 slides. So, not sure if you guys have noticed this. It may not automatically display when you first open your first Keywords on Fire session, and I'll show you guys how to adjust your column display when we get into the tools. But we've got this column here called PPC bid. And this is giving you an estimate of what the current average bid is for each of these keywords. So we talked about knowing your margins and your ACoS. And so you need to be aware of how much you might be having to spend on a particular set of keywords to be able to rank your product. So, if it's well over $1, or you might see some niches where it's, $2 and $3 for a bid. That might be a red flag to you that maybe that's not a product you want to pursue if you can't afford that kind of advertising at the beginning. All right, now, before we get into question and answers, I am going to jump into the tools. And I just want to show go back to the beginning before we look at Keywords on Fire a little bit more. And when you look at the business dashboard, we talked about, this is one of the things that makes this so valuable once you get to that selling stage, the things that you see here. And here we talked about your ACoS and your ACoS. And just so you guys know, if you ever forget exactly what that means and what the terminology is, if you hover over the little info dots on the platform, it'll give you an example of or an explanation of exactly what it is. So this is really a really great part of ZonGuru, how it shows you exactly what your ACoS and your ACoS or your tacos. I call that tacos. So we'll move into Keywords on Fire, and we'll just take a look at this counter shelf. So if you're not seeing the PPC bid column, the little cog here, you can open that up and you can either select or deselect any of the data points that you're interested in looking at or don't want to look at. So again, here, counter shelf, that's an average, again, it's an estimated bid for this keyword, and it's $1, $1.34 for countertop shelf. Here's some, as you see, some of these more long tail keywords, the bid price goes down a bit. Now, we also mentioned that you can export this as a CSV file. So when you're creating that master list, I usually manipulate that list around in my spreadsheet. And once and I typically don't export that until I've gone through this and made sure that everything is super relevant. Like if my shelf is not something that would be appropriate to put over a sink, I might want to remove those two. So I can click there, right here, hide those rows. That adjusts everything. And then when I go to export, I won't have those included because they're not relevant to my product. And also, you've got so many filters you can use here. We've gone through this in other trainings, but go through your filters, make sure your keyword list is super relevant, exactly what you need, and every keyword there would be appropriate. If you searched it in Amazon, your product would fit in that page, and then save your view. Because when you save that view, that's what you can then import into Listing Optimizer to properly optimize. You don't want to put keywords into Listing Optimizer that aren't relevant, because then it's not going to be an accurate reflection when you look at your optimization score. Anything else you wanted to add before we get on to question and answers, or anything else we want to show, you think, Veronica?
Well, I guess I wanted to point out, I love Keywords on Fire. I think it's an OG of tools because you use keywords you need to research your keywords at every stage of your journey. Research, listing optimization, PPC, and then you're looking at keyword ranking again, once you are running your PPC campaign. So you're constantly reviewing this tool. So the more practice you get, and as you go through your journey, you'll become very familiar with all the data points here. So as Kimberly showed you, you can actually edit what you're being seen. And when you're beginning, all of these data points can be very overwhelming. So depending on where you are, you only need to really concentrate on particular ones. So for the sake of, right now we are talking about PPC, I love the ZG score. I like the search volume. I want to know, what my top 25 competitors are looking. But one of my actually favorite views of Keywords on Fire is actually competitors' position. And if what you can do is if Kimberly goes across, it highlights what competitors are ranking for what keywords. So something to consider when you are on, creating your list for your PPC campaign, is there gaps of where your competitors haven't taken advantage of these keywords? And then you can actually create a list of keywords for your PPC campaign that directly it targets those keywords, and that's usually within our halo effect as well, where we use our long tail keywords. So you're looking at the view, as you can see where there is a dash, it means that that particular product does not rank in the top 200 products for that particular keyword. So the more green you see, the better in terms of that your competition is ranking lower. When you see red, they're on the first page. So that's an awesome view, and I that's probably one of my favorite views on Keywords on Fire.
Absolutely. I mean, and when you export, if you have this view shown, when it exports, you can see all of these. This exports with it. So that is so powerful for really being able to hone in on those keywords that you can really succeed on. And you can, if you're a spreadsheet geek like I am, you can have a lot of fun with conditional formatting and color coding things for certain values, and that gets it just like the next level of geekdom right there. So I won't go too far into that. But this also, drives home, you want to make sure that the ASINs that you're loading into Keywords on Fire are really relevant. So you definitely want to make sure that you look at those when you start your Keywords on Fire session, and you're loading those keywords that are those competitor ASINs that are your direct competitors.
And I wanted to re-emphasize as well, the PPC bid itself is super important actually during your product research phase. Now, Kimberly did mention that obviously if the higher the bid, that is the more money that you have to spend on your advertising, because there is usually higher competition. So if you're looking at that number and you're like, and you've done all your calculations, you need to know, can you afford that advertising? And if words are, $1.50, $2, $3, I think like, in the US marketplace, you type in yoga mat, PPC bids go through the roof.
Yeah.
And then that obviously,
that's a scary term.
Yeah, it obviously takes off of your profit margin. So then again, it as you can see, we're doing a full circle here. If you've got high PPC bid, it's cutting into your profit margin. If you're selling a product that is, selling for $25, your profit margin is 30%. Your profit margin is only actually a few dollars, and then you have to take away $2 per click. As you can see, your profit shrinks very, very quickly. So this is definitely, even though if you see PPC bid, I don't have to worry about that until I'm doing marketing. No. Even in your product research phase, you need to be looking at, have you considered this within your profit margin? Okay, or in your COGS, really, is it, what is happening there? Because I know that initially at the beginning of my journey, this is something that initially caught me out, because I was like, in my head, I'm like, PPC, I'll figure that out later. That's a later step once I've got everything going. But it is something that at least to be considered, or it's either like a tick or an X in product research, because it can turn around and sting you. And as a niche gets competitive, those, for example, the yoga mats, those PPC bids will rise, because there are more and more competitors bidding on that keyword. And obviously Amazon is there to make money itself, and it'll be like, okay, I can play this game as well. So that's what you need to consider there as well. And when you're looking at
and the bid prices change from day to day.
That's right.
You could set up your campaign, and that's why you have to monitor it, which we'll talk about later in the month with the deeper dive trainings. But you set your bids. It's not a set and forget. You have to look back, because the bids will change, and you'll need to potentially adjust your bids based on certain things. And again, we'll get into that deeper in another trainings. But the high overview, when you look at your gross profit margin, if your profit margin is, your gross profit margin, your landed COGS, your sale price minus your landed COGS, that's your gross margin. Well, if that's, say, 10%, well, then you can only do 10% advertising cost. and then you'll break even. So that's scary. That's not enough room. You need that higher margin.
That's right.
Sally, I would love to, but I cannot go into Campaign Manager without showing my products, and I'm sorry, I can't do that.
It's very secretive. What we can do, because as we said, we are moving on with these, like in terms of progressing these trainings, is that we can have a look if there's some kind of way that maybe we can screenshot empty campaigns and then pop them into our PowerPoints to show you where exactly. But yeah, in terms of going live, it is it's very secret, isn't it? In terms of when you're on products, then you understand that you put so much excuse me, so much effort and time. There aren't many sellers who are willing to share their baby to the whole world. But we can,
and I will be doing that. I will, and I've also thought about potentially doing like a pre-recorded bit where we can have some certain things edited out. So it can be a little bit more organic. But yeah, we will at the very minimum in the future sessions this month, when we go a little bit deeper into how those campaign structures look. And certain metrics to monitor, we will be doing at least some screenshots.
Yeah, because we completely agree that this is a topic that definitely a lot of people struggle in, or they maybe not struggle with. I'm going to take that back. Everything, when you haven't done Amazon before, at one point we're all beginners. So as you go through that journey, each time you get to the next step and everything is brand new, everything is overwhelming, you want to put your head in the sand type thing. So completely acknowledge that, and we will try to, as we progress these trainings, try to be as clear as possible. So when you log into your Seller Central account, you can kind of pause our presentation and be like, okay, this is what they did. Does it look like my screen? And obviously Amazon Seller Central itself, in terms of dashboard, it's always changing and things like that, but obviously we'll be doing it live, so it will be relevant to at least what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they've recently added some new things that I'm still trying to learn in the advertising platform. A lot of new columns there to play with, and I'm a data geek, so I like that.
I personally very much look forward to Kimberly running us through that.
All right, so any questions? It can be about what we've talked about. It can be about anything. So we are here to answer your questions. And pardon me while I have more coffee.
Still the morning where I am, Right, but yeah, feel free to ask any questions. But in terms of if I'm talking out loud to you all as points to take away from the beginning of your PPC journey. So if this is where you're at, it's unfamiliar, and this is your first time hearing it, is that know that firstly, you just need to hear the terminology a few times. And then when you get into Seller Central account and start looking at your campaign, again, is looking at it a few times. And, collect your keywords, create a campaign, and then sleep on it. And then come back to it. So don't feel like you're going to sit down and achieve this in an hour, because it's not going to happen. It's not realistic, and don't put yourself that kind of pressure on yourself. So know that it's, give yourself time to breathe and consume all the information, because it is on you, and there are quite a few moving parts. But once you understand each of those moving parts, you can then see how they nicely move together.
Okay, so Stephen's asked a question, and I think I know what you're talking about. So Stephen, were you having issues with certain things not showing up in ZonGuru? And I think that might have been related not to sellers hiding their data, but Amazon was doing some back end work recently. And so some of their data wasn't displaying. So it wasn't, that the ZonGuru had an issue. It was Amazon wasn't giving us that information, so we couldn't display it. It wasn't that sellers were hiding their data. So if that's what you're referring to, I hope I answered your question. Brendan, that is a really good question. I'm really glad you asked that, because I definitely want to dive into this topic.
Most definitely. 100%. This is basically.
All right. So will PPC work even if the product just launched without product review? So I have talked to some sellers in the past who have not launched any PPC whatsoever. And it is absolutely crucial. And I mean, launch strategies have changed over just in the time that I've been in the Amazon space. It used to be that, you wouldn't start PPC until you had reviews. And that is not necessarily the case anymore. You can't, it's that catch-22. It's going to be really hard to get reviews if you don't get sales, and you really have a hard time getting sales without getting reviews. And Amazon has just, there's been some news recently about some companies that have lost their API access with Amazon, and some different things that Amazon is starting to crack down on, some strategies to drive traffic and affect ranking that is going to disrupt the space. It seems like they always try to do this in November. They just shake things up, change terms of service, and start getting hard on people. But anyway, so the answer to your question is that you really do need to start with PPC. I don't launch a product without PPC. I have my PPC campaign set up while my product is on the water. I have it ready to go when my product is in stock. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, I want to start getting those sales. And I need Amazon to know what my product is. And so PPC works to teach Amazon what your product is, because if you advertise for plastic cup and you get displayed on a search result page that's plastic cup, and someone clicks on that ad, Amazon goes, oh, that is a plastic cup. I'll remember that, and I'll make sure I show them when that might be relevant again. Now, also with the halo effect, when you're using those long tail keywords, that can be really good, because if you advertise plastic cup that goes with picnic basket, of course you wouldn't add all those extra words, but plastic cup picnic basket, because it goes in a picnic basket set, and someone clicks on that, well, that will rank you for that, but it'll also help rank you for plastic cup. So advertising is going to drive your organic rank as well as, just get traffic and get sales.
Yeah. So is definitely, as Kimberly said, as your product is on the water, your campaign is ready to, press play as soon as your product hits Amazon warehouses. And you're also taking advantage of the honeymoon period there as well. You want to show Amazon, yes, Amazon customers are loving my product, rank my product. And PPC ultimately helps you achieve that, because without PPC and you're a new product, even though Amazon does give you a little boost initially, if you're just a new product, no reviews, no one's ever bought it, how are people going to find you? By having a PPC campaign, you can bid for an ad and be on page one as a sponsored ad right at the top, and that's the first product someone sees. You obviously have a more chance of someone clicking on it and buying it and then leaving a review than you being on page 4. No review, and nothing.
Yeah, and launch strategies is one of the trainings that we're going to do. There's lots of different launch strategies with PPC that we'll be looking at deeper in the month. Stephen, I'm wondering if it was the other Kimberly that made that comment to you, because that's not something I'm familiar with. So there are two of us.
Yeah, I do believe I have heard that before, but in terms of if there's no way for us to know. So even though it may be a comment, it's nothing that I'm not quite sure what information you wanted. Some I have heard that some sellers are able to somehow mask that information, but if they do or don't, there's no way for us to know.
I wish I knew how to do that, because I would love to mask my information so people can't get my details when they're researching my niche if they're wanting to compete with me. But I have no idea how to do it, and if I did, I would be doing it.
Yeah.
Luke, I think it's like one of those urban legends.
Yeah, it's just something like it is. If the data's there, take advantage of it. If it's not, then it's usually from Amazon that they're doing something on their end. We can only, have our estimates based on the data that Amazon filters or allows access for us to have. Yep. Luke, how do you estimate your PPC cost when you are doing product research and validating products? In Keywords on Fire through that PPC bid.
Yeah. So back here. That's where you take a look at that. And again, that's an estimate and it can change, and you could look at it when you're doing your research, keep an eye on it. because it can definitely change by the time you launch. And if you happen to be launching at this time of year, your PPC bids prices are going to go up in Q4, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. And if you're not quite sure why that is the case, is because Q4 is the quarter for Amazon sellers or for e-commerce in general, but mainly because, you know, we've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's Christmas, everyone is buying stuff online. So you want to make sure that your inventory is in, your PPC is going, that your products are ready to go, because there are more people online than at any other point of the year. That's why Q4 is go time, is PPC, you know, all in type.
Yeah, I mean, it is the retail season. I mean, that is why Black Friday has the term that it does. It was when retail companies would turn their profits from in the red to in the black. That's why it got its name, Black Friday. So do you think it's a good idea to get agents to help you with the Amazon process, especially when starting out? Do you think it's worth it cost-wise to having to pay them as well?
So Kimberly, before you go to that question, I do think that we can help out Luke for a little bit more. So, so in terms of in Keywords on Fire, the PPC bid is for there to use, but then how do you validate your product? So you need to do, so for example, we have our tracking sheet where we ask you to fill in all the data points, and then it's color coded and it gives you a kind of a visual representation. If there's more red on the page, you know, move on. If it's green, that's something to continue in. So, but basically speaking, when we say about, okay, are we looking at PPC costs and does it validate our product? So it is, you need to be working out your COGS and then your profit margins. And does a click, so for example, so if you're selling a product for $100 and your profit margin is $30 because it's 30%. So we'll just do 100 because it's easier to work out in math. 30% is $30. And then you go to your PPC bid and you're like, oh, each click for a PPC bid is under $1. So if you get one sale, you get $30 profit minus your advertising, which is $1, you still have $29 profit or 29% profit margin. I would say I'm pretty happy with that. However, if you're selling something for $10, which we do not recommend, but if you're selling something for $10 and your profit margin is 30%, that is $3, and then your PPC bid is $1, your profit margin goes down to 20%, $2. And I wouldn't obviously go for that product in the first place, but as you can see, that's where you need to consider of like, okay, what is your profit margin? Have you considered your advertising in that profit margin? If you have, based on the PPC bid at that, you know, at that time, and also give yourself to move. So we always, like in our household, we always say that we almost create like a worst case scenario. So if things are looking at $1, we just say, okay, we'll do $1.50 or $2, just to give us space that if something happened, like suddenly a flooding of new sellers came in, I'd be like, okay, I've doubled it. Even if we were paying $2, we're still happy with our profit margin.
Yeah, so that's another really great point. Is, you know, you want to keep going back and monitoring, you know, your advertising, not necessarily changing things every day, but looking at things on a regular basis. And seeing if and again, we're going to talk about these metrics and how you need to manage your PPC later in the month with other training sessions. Okay.
So we will do one more question because we've run over the hour now, which is awesome. We love when you guys ask questions. So we've got one more. Do you think it's a good idea to get agents to help you with the Amazon process, especially when starting out? Do you think it's worth it, cost-wise, having to pay them as well? I can go first. We can give our. I personally think it's personal preference. I think my advice, or what the process that actually I think that Kimberly and I have both gone through, but is that you need to find, if you're new to Amazon, find a mentor, find a course that takes you through the steps and learn it. Because you need to decide, if you hire an agent and they do it all for you, what are your goals in terms of this business? Is this something that, okay, I want to become a full Amazon seller, I want to be managing my businesses myself, then obviously you at one point have to learn how to do it yourself. Having an agent, they just do it for you.
Now, and my thoughts on this are, and again, it is personal preference, but to go further with, and I think expand on exactly what Veronica is saying is, you need to, you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're like the conductor of an orchestra, and you're conducting everything. But in having a background in band in junior high school, I can guarantee you that that conductor can play every single instrument, at least a little bit. May not be, you know, concert level, but can play it properly. So you need to be able to understand how each of these components in your business works. So that way, when you do hand it over to someone else, you know if they're doing it properly or not. And
That's
you
right.
know what questions to ask to evaluate if they know what they're doing even before you hire them. So, and then even further from that, I think most people starting out, you know, you may not have the budget to do that. And I think there is a lot of education and a lot of mentors out there where you can learn how to do it. And I do highly recommend that. And then just even going further, I'm a control freak. So, you know, I have to do it myself. I heard that peanut gallery. I got confirmation that I'm a control freak. So yeah, I have to know what's going on in my own business really, really thoroughly. So for me, I haven't hired anyone to do that type of work. I know other people that have had success, and I know people have that it has ended up not working out very well.
I think it's something definitely maybe down the track, like that you've launched it, you're getting some momentum, maybe you're launching other products, you don't have time to focus on this one, or let's say that, you know, you've gone through the process and you're like, I love product research, I love keywords, listing optimization, but PPC I don't enjoy doing. I understand it, but I'm going to hire someone to do that for me. Like that's, I think that's more so the process. But when you're beginning, you don't know what to expect, you don't know, and I feel like you're in a kind of almost a vulnerable position where someone could rip you off because you don't know what you don't know, so you don't know if they're doing a good job or not. And you can't expect, you know,
sorry,
no, I was just going to say, when you first launch something, you also have there's so many different factors to when you're analyzing what's successful. Someone might do everything for you, but you picked your product. They may have done everything perfectly for you, but you get no sales. And then you're like, okay, was it me or was it them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's a story I could tell, but it's probably not appropriate. But yeah, there's some, you need to know your own business well. I will go ahead and answer this question from Brennan before we turn things off, because this is a really good question. So when a product is launched, how many days does it usually take before your ACoS goes below 100%? So that goes back to what I was talking about earlier, and knowing your margins and setting your daily budget at the campaign level. So we're going to go into this deeper in one of the other trainings, but basically, you know, if I'll just try and give a quick example now. So if your margin is 30%, yeah, that's your gross margin. You don't want to spend more than 30% a day on advertising. So you set your daily budget level. So if your product sells for $20 and you expect to have, based on, you know, the velocity of page 1, 20 sales a day. Well, 20 times 20 is 400. So $400 is what you expect to make in sales a day, and you want to do 30% is your profit margin. So you need to then set your daily budgets to that. So you would divide, you know, that would be, you know, 30% of 400 is 120. So then you would set your daily budgets to maximum combined $120, and then your ACoS, I mean, that's actually, you know, more overall, because you're going to have organic too. So you could still end up with 100% ACoS, but it's just there's no really definite answer to that. But know that if you're setting your daily budgets within that parameters, that you should be able to optimize within a reasonable time frame to get where the overall is good, because your organic ranking is then going to start picking up. So that was a really roundabout way to answer that question without really answering it. So, because there is no definite answer.
And it's ongoing as well. Things can change, and it might, like, you might wake up one morning and be like, well, what happened there? So there are so many other factors that change. What are your competitors doing? How many people are actually clicking it? Like, it's not something that happens once and remains the same.
And that's why it's like, once you're selling, keyword tracker is really, really important, because, in you want to see where you're ranking for these important keywords, especially the ones you're advertising for. And as your organic rank comes up, then your ACoS is going to start going down, because sellers trust an organic ranked product more than they trust an advertised product. They will, if they see an advertised product, but they don't see it on the organic page, they may not choose to click on that and buy that because, it didn't make it here on its own, if they understand that it's an ad in the first place. So it is definitely something, a trust issue with buyers. All right, so we have gone past the hour and we have pretty much kept everybody here. So wow, thank you very much. I hope this has been helpful, but I do want to ask, because your feedback is really very important. I'm going to pop a link in the chat, and it's just a short little couple questions, and really would like to find out, are there other topics that would be helpful to everyone going forward, because we do want to make sure that we're providing the content that is, answering the questions that are, forefront in your mind. So again, we will be doing more PPC training throughout the month of November. And please click on the link, give us your feedback. It's really, really valuable. And that is completely anonymous. So you can say exactly what's on your mind. And again, if you have any other questions about anything, you can always reach out to us in support. But I think we will bring things to a close. Thank you so much, Veronica. It was always nice having you with me on the trainings.
Thank you, Kimberly. No, that was great. As I said, I look forward to the rest of the PPC ones, because personally for me, I'm more for product research. I love all the creative bits of it. PPC in my personal business is something that I like. Oh yeah. So it is, we all have to wear different hats in our businesses, but you're allowed to have your favorites as well.
Well, it's definitely not my favorite, but it's definitely something that I was determined to master, because I knew if I didn't master it, then I was going to suffer for it in my business.
Exactly. So, it's extremely important. It's very important. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed it. Have a fantastic day. Fill out the form. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye.